Hello and welcome to Horrible Histories of Lough Neagh, a short series of videos presented as part of a project for Irish Heritage Week 2020. I'm Sharon Arbuthnot, and this first instalment I'm going to look at some medieval and modern traditions about how the loch was formed and named. Lough Neagh, or Loch nEchach as it's known in Irish, is the largest body of fresh water in Ireland, holding somewhere in the region of 800 billion gallons of water. It wasn't always there, of course. Below the loch there are fault lines in the Earth's crust, and around 65 million years ago volcanic activity caused those fault lines to move. This created a basin which filled with water, becoming Lough Neagh. The people of medieval Ireland also had a sense that there was a time before the loch. They tended to think of the natural world as a work in progress, and the existence of rivers and lochs, of water surrounded by or flowing through land, they often explained in terms of water bursting through the earth. So we have many stories of accidental floods, mostly caused by human failings. The origin story of the river Boyne tells how there was once a hidden well, and it was believed that the eyes of anyone who saw it would burst. And then a woman named Boänd in her arrogance walked anti-clockwise around the well 3 times. 3 waves rose up and chased her as she fled to the sea. So the river flows in the path that she took as she ran towards the ocean, and the river is named after her, Boyne in Old Irish, or Boyne in the modern language. According to the early literature, the formation of Lough Neagh didn't happen until 100 years after the birth of Christ. Its story too begins by the Boyne. On a Sunday in September, a man named Echach arrived at Bóinne, or Newgrange, with a band of followers. The resident of Newgrange orders them to leave, and when they don't he kills their cattle, and then their horses, and only when he threatens to kill the people themselves do they agree to move on. Echach has to borrow a horse to carry his people's belongings, as their own horses have been killed, but he's told to send the horse back before it's allowed to urinate, or else they will all die suddenly. Echach moves on to a place called Liathmhuine. The horse wanders off and predictably urinates, so that a well is formed into the ground. Echach builds a house for himself and his family over the well, puts a lid on it and leaves a woman to guard it. But fatefully, the woman allows the well to overflow. The water just keeps coming, and eventually Lough Neagh is formed. Everyone except Echach's daughter and her pet dog drowns. And that's the essence of the medieval origin tale of Lough Neagh. It's a great story. It's a horrible story in many ways, in that it has to do with horses urinating and people drowning. But every single aspect of the plot has a function in helping us understand the landscape and the names of the area. In truth, Loch nEchach, the Irish for Lough Neagh, probably comes from the name of a group of people who lived in the area, the Echach. A story needs a central character though, and so we're introduced to a man named Echach. And Loch nEchach can be understood as Echach's Loch, forever commemorating the man who failed to heed the warning that everyone would die if he let the horse pass water. But Ech is also an Irish word for a horse. So Loch nEchach has echoes also of the loch of the horse. Now, I understand that an average horse can pass up to 2 gallons of water a day. The average horse is not really relevant to our story though. The horse loaned to Echach is from the other world. It carries the belongings of 1,000 men who accompanied Echach on his journey north. An enormous horse is of course a perfect means of accounting for 800 billion gallons of water, but there's probably a linguistic reason why this particular horse stops to urinate. The well which overflowed to form Lough Neagh was called Linnmhuine. The plain which was flooded was called Liathmhuine. Now those names probably mean pool thicket and grey thicket respectively, but the end of both names resembles the Irish word mhuine, which means urine. So the person who composed the naming legend wasn't just trying to tell an entertaining story, he was weaving a story around all of these place names. The tale of Echach and his amazing horse goes back to at least the 8th or 9th century. The essence of that story of the overflowing well has been told and retold over 1,000 years though. The National Folklore Database has many modern retellings, many of them collected in the 1930s. Mr. Garrett of County Mayo, for example, tells that one day a woman went to the well for a can of water. She was in a great hurry, and so she forgot to put the cover on the well. The well overflowed its brinks and kept flowing on till it covered all the villages and towns round about it. And that's how Lough Neagh got its name. Bridget Parkinson tells that a water bull kept constant guard over the spring that supplied water to the well of Neagh. The bull vacated the spot, the spring gushed forth uncontrolled and flooded the whole countryside, forming Lough Neagh. And Teresa Daly in 1937 told us that once upon a time there was a holy well in County Down, and the people of the neighbourhood carried water from it. There was a large stone covering the well which had to be replaced the moment water was lifted. One day a woman came for a pail of water, and just as she had the water lifted, she heard a scream from the baby, and she ran to see what was the matter, forgetting to replace the stone over the well. And the water flowed over and drowned everyone and formed a lake, which is now called Lough Neagh. So the well becomes a holy well. We find a water bull guarding the well rather than a woman. The woman is not guarding but fetching water. And the story is embellished to say that the woman is distracted by a crying baby or that she is in a hurry. All of these modern tellings, of course, have lost the linguistic reasons for the name. They've lost the man named Echach and the urinating horse, the very elements that would have been most important in the medieval telling, and they've mostly kept the woman and the well. There's another version of the formation of Lough Neagh in the folklore archives. This story was told by Dennis Newman of County Limerick, and we formed it into a quiz question for you. Dennis told us that one Christmas night someone went round a city which stood where Lough Neagh is today. He was dressed as a beggar and looking for charity. No one helped him, and at his word a nearby well overflowed and submerged the city. So the question then is, who caused the well to overflow on Christmas night? Was it St. Patrick, St. Nicholas, Jesus or Finn McCool? We put this question previously to a live audience and here's the results. 25% voted for St. Patrick, 25% voted for Santa, 17% voted for Jesus, and the favourite was Finn McCool with 33%. Surprisingly, actually, the answer is Jesus. Here's the actual story as told by Dennis Newman and preserved in the National Folklore Archives. One Christmas night long ago, our Lord, dressed as a beggar, went round the city looking for alms. The city was situated where Lough Neagh is. In the whole city, not a person did he meet to give him help. Then, at a word from him, the well nearby overflowed and submerged the city and its inhabitants. The towers of that city are seen on Christmas night. So it's a kind of Christianised retelling of the story of Lough Neagh, used to emphasise the power of Christ and the penalties for being uncharitable. I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to the horrible histories of Lough Neagh and that you'll join me for part 2 to hear how the Loch turned to blood.